Okay, I've got to control for a second, Buck. I'll just keep it for a second. Okay, so we are, in case you didn't notice, the set's different. This is not Cat in disguise. We have with us, Greg Jeffrey, a good friend of mine, with us today. And Cat is in Pennsylvania doing this live show that a lot of you are familiar with for the, what's the name of the organization? The Diamonds? Four Diamonds organization. A lot of you guys contributed to that charity, and some really good work. So as we're speaking right now, she's performing in Pennsylvania. So we're not gonna bring her in or anything because we didn't want to torture her and make her do a show. So what I decided to do was cover some of the usual subject matter. But as you know, we've been talking last week, and we gave you a little preview of the song "Carry On" about my sister. And I probably, if you recall, I mentioned that we had the writing of the music was with Greg, and we have got some behind-the-scenes footage of us working on the album, and we're going to preview a little bit more of the song. But the song is not going to be officially sort of released until May the 4th be with you. A lot of you guys voted last week to put the show. We said, which day do you want it, May the 3rd or May the 4th? And so the most of the votes went to May the 4th. So we're going to do our next week's show with Kat on the set, May the 4th be with you show here, Sunday instead of Saturday. So I'm just warning you now. It's going to be, but the show is going to be dedicated, obviously, more to the Star Wars theme. But because the song "Carry On" is largely about Carrie, and also the music lyrics are a lot about Carrie, and some of the lyrics were written by Carrie and I together, we're making that part of that show. And so for the first time, you'd be able to actually download that show on Patreon, not the show, but the song in its entirety. So we can continue to tease you, but you can't hear it all until May the 4th be with you, which is kind of fun, right? You don't want to let everything go that quick. We have Seth with us here. We're going to cut to the wide. There's Seth. Wave.
Hello.
Oh,
hi.
we're going to go by
wide. I don't know where wide. Hi.
So Seth is going to. You have some of the usual suspects here. So we're going to be not doing what Kat usually does because I don't have.
Well,
I'm not even
true.
looking.
I have 10,000 people to say.
Yeah. So we could
list.
spend the first hour saying hello to everybody like Kat. No, we're teasing. She loves to do that. I don't know all the names the way she does. She has an amazing memory. She can remember everybody's names. I'm not really very good at that. But the first order of business, I think, just for fun.
Well, some folks are asking about Greg and yours friendship. So.
Well, that is the theme of the show for sure. So, by the way, we're going to have Seth pay close attention to the comments since we don't have Kat up here watching all of that as well. But yeah, so Greg is an interesting guest because I could just go right into it, or do we want to talk about any of the other stuff first? Because you have claim sales and stuff coming up.
We can get into that.
Get that out of the way.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
All right, so we do have some cool stuff because of May the 4th.
Yeah.
Wait, is the claim sale tomorrow or May the 4th?
Well, we have one tomorrow and we have one.
Oh, 2 claim sales coming up. But the one I'm kind of focused on is the May the 4th one. That's going to be a lot of Star Wars stuff that we normally would not have available. So we've held back. Every time I was tempted to put some Star Wars item up for auction, Ryan would object. And so we have held things back. So let me see that for a second. Well, I'll just take whatever you got. But I think one of the coolest items is a signed poster of Carrie. So it's hard to. Oh yeah. So in fact, there's Carrie's signature down there, but you also see right where the Ewok is. One of the Ewoks signed it as well. So now this poster has got a little bit of damage here. So this one is a little less expensive, and there's another one that's going to be going up, right? That has no damage that will cost you more, but this one's going to be really good. So if you don't, to have a Carrie Star Wars, this is a poster, and by the way, I was there when she signed these. So like some of the things that I have, I don't even, I wasn't around necessarily when they were signed, but I was there when she signed that. Like for example, let me have that. Like I was not around when Carrie signed this check, for an example. Well, I was around physically, but like she signed this in New York. New York's, what does that say? El Dorado Inc. New York's El Dorado Inc. It's probably, it looks $550. So she wrote a check, and then it's also got her address on the back here, which was 300 Central Park West. And it even says the apartment was 12J. So this is a pretty unusual little item here. So if you don't have a signed Carrie anything, this is going to be a cool item. Now this is going up on which day?
That's going to go up next weekend on the website.
Next weekend on the website. So if you want to get into this, that's that. So the poster, that, and this is really also very rare, maybe not as valuable as those things, but this was a cross pen set that was given to Carrie. There was a couple of them given to her because obviously this was in a Star Wars cross pen. So this is in the original packing. It's never been opened. Anyways, you know, as you guys know, we would be given prototypes to things, and then they would, Carrie would throw them away in many cases, or not, or just throw them in the garage, and my mother would then box them up and send them to the ranch. I have all these cool boxes that I've kept that have my mom's writing. It says, "To Ranch." Just a cardboard box. Now, you know, like, no one would even know that's her handwriting, but that's what she used to do. She would save things from the abyss, because Carrie did not have a sense of preservation. You know, she wouldn't save anything. And I know you had actually lost a lot of your career stuff as well, right? I mean, didn't you, like, weren't we looking, like pictures? I was trying to, so a lot of people ask, so what does Greg and I have in common? Well, many years ago, back when I had my recording truck, and this is like 76, yes. You know, I recorded an album with Greg, and we didn't know each other at the time. He was a rock and roller glam rocker. Would you say that was kind of the?
I'd say glam rock.
Yeah. So, but you know, and he did most of the writing for the band, right? And he was the keyboard player. But we didn't know each other at all. But that's when we first met, way back then. And we recently, I would say, like in the last 10 years, kind of we've been over the years. We'd run into each other, right? Yeah. We played golf a few times.
You and
hotel days.
Your mom bought the hotel and the casino. I came by.
We played golf at the Vegas Country Club a couple times. But more recently, you know, he and I were members of the same country club, and we started playing golf together. Well, let's see. Make sure the switch. Make sure the light came on. Let me see it. Let me just see it. Well, wait. Don't turn the switch. Let's just see. Yeah, the light is not on, but he is. We do this all the time on a live show, by the way. Let's see. So this is. So somebody left his mic in the on position. We're going to have to do a battery change, and I'm the crew. Oh no, he's going to get the battery. But so we have a slight technical interlude here.
All right.
I got a feeling.
I want some.
What did we use this for last?
Last week's show.
So Kat left it on. Do you think that's possible? Because it was definitely left on. It was it's flat dead. Let's put it that way.
I feel a mic turn.
Okay, she's on now. Now you
There
can
we
go.
go.
Okay, so there's Greg being a little low, meaning like not on at all.
In the years of the studio that we've been together,
Now it's still low. Talk some more.
You got it? Hello?
I'm going to turn it up back at the board. Do you think that's turned down back there, Buck? I mean, is something going on there? Okay, so we should have done a sound check. Oh, it's turned down. I don't know why. Talk to me, Greg. It's turned way down. Go, say talk. Talk to me. Give me testing 1, 2, 3. It's super low. Yeah, I'm wondering if there's. Let me check. No, I don't know if we want to do that. We'll just take, if everybody doesn't care. Let's check. I'm going to check the connection. That looks good there. Let me check it back here. Hold up. I'm going to check this right here. Let me see. Talking that?
Yes.
While you guys do that, I'm just going to say thank you to everybody for your donations.
Keep
we
talking
are
in the
so
mic.
grateful.
I don't think his mic is
This
on.
is not working or something.
Thank you, Lates. Hi, Lates Styles. Thank you,
Talk?
Lori.
No.
We got another pen?
I got another mic, but I don't know that we want to take the time. We're going to have to give him the handheld. Because it's like we don't have anything set up on headset, or do I? Let me have one quick check back here. This is what you get for live TV.
Greg, everybody is saying they were a big fan of Angel, so you're getting a lot of love.
Get him the handheld. You just have to give him the handheld. Because I don't see that that mic is doing anything at all.
Thank you, thank you.
One. Mine's doing it. Now let's try that. Talking that.
Testing. Hello, you got it?
Did you not turn that on there, buddy?
It's on. You handed it.
1, 2. Yeah, you just have to talk a little closer to it. That's all.
Okay. Got it?
All right, now
There
we
we
have
go.
Greg.
Oh, I see
There's-
the meter now, so now
Okay.
we're on.
So you got to just keep it closer. I'll turn it up, whichever you'd rather do. You like it further away? I'll turn it up back there.
No, that's fine.
It's
That's
too low.
fine. Too low?
Given
Yeah,
your-
I need more.
yeah, I don't.
I have a softer voice
You,
now.
you see, when Seth talks, it's very loud,
Testing.
like Ethel Merman. Yes,
Testing.
exactly. Try now.
Hello.
she
Testing,
is.
testing. There we go.
Now you can talk softer. All right.
There's
now
an
we've gotten-
Angel fan out there.
We've
Yeah. I
Well-
was wondering who bought that album.
no, it did better. So Neil Bogart, right?
Yeah.
So Neil Bogart hired me with my recording truck to record a record that was going to be recorded up at what we used to call the Castle.
Yeah.
And that was, and then he mentioned this band Angel, which I was not familiar with at the time, but he said, "Oh, well, it's going to be produced by Eddie Kramer," and that was a big deal because everybody,
Very big. Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix.
right?
Yeah.
Just to name a few
Just
small,
to name a small local
lightweight
groups.
talents, some newcomers. So in fact, I noticed. So we have here we had this framed in the recording studio, and this is the
Right.
record that we worked on, and that was the band. And so let's see, where's Greg here?
On the left-hand
Here,
side
you
there.
point yourself out. 'cause
Right
I'll
over
hold the
here.
frame.
There we go.
There's Greg
Right
there.
Right.
And then over here it actually says Raymax Recorders and Eddie Kramer and all of that. So Raymax, what do you have? Oh, go ahead and bring it up though. That's easier to see, yeah. So he's got it on the screen. So if you haven't seen the album, now there was this really cool thing about the location. Hey, Buck, turn up the microphone audio on the one that says T. So go down there to the left, and you'll see a T, and even I'm low for whatever reason. You see the one that says T? Well, anyway, I'm not going to wait for him. So the bottom line here is that there was on Sunset there was a restaurant that was called The Source.
Right.
And it was like a healthy place to eat. And then right above that was this old, what we called the Castle. It had a Tiffany dome under the staircase. And it was
20, if I remember correctly, I think 20 feet across.
yeah, I think
Huge,
so. Huge Tiffany dome. Beautiful, beautiful old home. And so we moved the truck up there, and that's when I first met Greg, was when we had moved the truck up there. And right away we had a little run-in with Eddie Kramer over tape machines. Like which tape machine we're going to use to record the album on. Were you around for that argument?
Yes, I heard part of it.
Because, yeah, so well, we had a particular tape machine in the remote truck, and he goes, no, I don't like that tape machine. I want a different. So they brought another tape machine up, and then he tried that one, and he didn't like that one. So we had another tape machine. It was like 3, maybe even 4 machines later, we finally got to
settled on it. But the first encounter, this is, I don't know if you remember this one, Eddie, I hadn't met him yet.
Oh.
And he came to the castle, and I would tell the story if Eddie was sitting, here with us. So he had on this extravagant jacket and an ascot like Clark Gable or someone would wear, and I went, interesting. Okay, that's I like this. And his main concern was the wine that we would be getting. What years, what Cabernets, what French wines. And we had this discussion, and then I said, well, yeah, it's legal to drink wine here.
When would you like to talk about the music, right?
Yeah, I was kind of...
Yeah. So he right away was, I mean, from our perspective now, I don't know how you felt. I thought he was rather eccentric is the way I saw it. But the guy's a legend, so what are you going to say, right?
He was the best at the time there, and still is. I mean,
How did you
he's
get
a
hooked
friend.
up with him? By the way, you have the picture of Eddie Kramer? Sure. I think he's got a picture of him too. So, I mean, was it
Yeah,
forced? Was it forced on you, or
No, there's young Edward there. There's Eddie.
So, I mean,
Well, he was quite well known. There were some, the first two Angel albums, we had Derek Lawrence and Big Jim Sullivan. And Derek Lawrence had produced Deep Purple, songs Hush and some of their big records. And I was kind of dominating keyboard sound-wise and the way I play and eat up a lot of space on it. But we wanted the guitars to have a powerful sound. Thought Deep Purple was a great balance between keyboards and guitars.
yeah.
And then Eddie became available, from what I remember exactly. And then I had a thing. Even though I play keyboards, Jimi Hendrix was an influence, even just any musician. And Eddie had done that album. And I was in high school in Mississippi in 11th grade, I believe it was, in a little local band. And I ended up opening for Jimi Hendrix for 6 shows.
But there was no connection to Eddie Kramer yet, though.
No, but it was later on how paths cross and things happen.
But I mean, who wasn't influenced by Hendrix? I mean, everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, he's, you know.
It was a shocking record when it came out. It was just like, wow.
But the way that we first met was the band arrived. We had the truck up there ahead of time and powered up the truck. And the truck basically, we have a picture of that truck? Don't you have a picture of the brochure?
I have a whole slideshow of the truck.
Oh, well, go ahead and hit it then. Let's.
I wanted to show them something about the album cover, though.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Go back to it.
And I'm blank on the name of what it's called. If you look at the Angel logo, you can turn that upside down. I think we could show it here if Todd holds it.
Okay.
If you hold this up and see where the Angel logo and the word Angel is right there.
Well, we'll do it over here.
Okay.
Okay, so now what do you want to do?
Where the name Angel is right here, turn the whole thing around and it says Angel again.
Oh,
It's
either
still,
way. Whose art design was that?
Well, we were playing in, if I remember, Philadelphia. Philadelphia would be the Spectrum in Philadelphia. And the security came in and knocked on the door and said, hey, there's a guy that's just will not stop asking to come back and show you something. And we said, seriously, really, no? We said no, and he came back again. He goes, just let him stick his head in for a second. And so the kid comes in, holds this up, and we went, yeah, great logo, that's nice. He goes, no, wait. And he turns it upside down, and it said Angel. We said, come on in.
Yeah.
So we did a deal with him right there, cut a check to him, said we want to use it. And he's had a big career.
Was this the first album it was used on?
First record it was used on was this record. And he's had a big career in
Graphic
why
design?
I can't remember it. Pentagram or there's a word for it where you can take a word and turn it upside down and read it the same way.
Not anagram.
Anagram? Could be.
Could be.
Google.
Well, it doesn't
Google
matter.
what it is.
All right, let me see this slideshow that you have. You have. So what? We roll up to the castle with the truck, and this is a funny picture here, actually. So there's who rolled up with the truck. It was Art Kelm, Richard Landers, and myself. Richard and I had met back in New York, and he had come out to live with us in California. And if you see those big reels there, you see that that's the big microphone cables that would be run into the building.
Right.
And you also can see there on the left, there's the back of the truck is a window. So when you'd open up the doors, you're like looking through a window. Now, we didn't use that a lot up at the castle because we were using cameras, security cameras.
Yes.
So there you could see some additional pictures of the road cases and stuff like that. Not sure what that upper right one is. Oh, that's the back of the truck too. That's kind of cool because there's my mother in the upper left corner with
Right.
Art and I, and there's the truck. Now that truck that's what we used to live over in Oakhurst before we move it up to the castle. So this is the truck that was being set up. You can keep going, and used in. Oh, it's pre-timed. Yes. Oh, there's a proof sheet. Now there's my mother in the truck, sitting at the
truck, right.
console. That's a Spectrasonics console, which was a really, really amazing clean sounding console, beautiful sounding console. But
Speaking about your mom, I remember your mom coming to the castle.
yes,
I remember talking to me about, she mentioned to me twice, she goes, well, you know, I can sing some of the background. I could sing those harmonies on
Yeah.
that song. And I thought, oh, I bet you can. I know you can. It was really
no, but
funny.
people were like, really? You'd be willing to do? I mean, most people would not take her up on it because they didn't think she was serious, and she was really good at it.
I was just kind of stunned, and I went, oh my gosh, absolutely, or whatever. So I didn't know whether she said that just being graceful and nice.
Well,
or
what was funny is if you think about it, I'm basically 18 years old, and you know, she would come up originally just checking on us, like,
Oh yeah.
because we'd tell stories about what we were doing, and she'd be like, "You're doing what?" Well, we're working on this album with this group,
Rock band.
Angel, and she's like, up at this castle. And by the way, the cool story about the castle, you may not know this story, but when I first went up just to scout the location, I walked into the house, and there were boxes around. People were
No, I
packing
know
up.
that. Oh, go
You know
ahead.
the story,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I go into the library, and there's an old dude in there packing up boxes in the library. And I said, "Oh, excuse me, sorry about that." He goes, "No, it's cool, whatever, you know." And I said, "Oh, so," he said, "I've lived here for a long time. You know, this is like I said, "Oh, wow, what an amazing house," and blah, blah. He goes, "Yeah, how do you do? I'm Noah Dietrich." And I said, "Noah Dietrich, you mean like Howard Hughes' CFO?"
The Noah Dietrich.
Well, and the only reason why I knew that is because my mother was friends with Hughes. Otherwise, somebody my age would not know
Right,
Noah Dietrich,
right.
but I knew that name, never had met him before. And he goes, "Yeah, I'm the Noah Dietrich.
Yep.
You know, I worked for Mr. Hughes forever, and you know, this house is too much for me now, and I'm going to go live with my daughter," or whatever he said. And I was like, "Holy shit! I mean, you know, you got time to sit down and tell me some stories?" Can you imagine? The guy never wrote a book or did. I mean, what the heck? I mean, that guy. You imagine the stories that guy has. Holy mackerel. Anyway, that was my. So I did get to talk to him for a little bit, but it was one of those moments where you're like, now there's a good example, by the way, of a non-celebrity that is super impressive to meet. You know, and you know, it's like, you know.
Absolutely. And for me later on, as I'm older now, and I look back, whether I'm from the day that we met and Angel took place, to whether Art and the guys and Richard and their careers, how they went along in music, president of Capitol Records, and then Don
Right.
Felders, I think, engineer.
Yeah, Richard.
and
Well, not just Richard. Yeah, let's review that real quick. So the go back to the playback for a second. So where's playback here? I can't see it. Oh, there it is. Okay. So there's Richard with the helmet hairdo. Richard went on to tour originally with you know, what was it? Did the Lineman song, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You know, God, why can't I think of his name? Country western star, got Alzheimer's and faded into nothing. Huge star.
Glenn
Campbell. Thank
Yeah,
you.
he was Glenn
So Richard was on the road with my mother for a long time as well, but then he went on to do Glenn Campbell. Then he went on to do Stephen Vai and run his studio,
Yep.
and also Frank Zappa's studio.
Sure.
And then eventually went on to do Don Felder's touring stuff.
Right.
And he's doing somebody else right now as we speak. But a very interesting, you know.
But the talented guys, I mean, they're very talented, all these people, but it ties in my life with Howard Hughes and a close friend of mine who was very involved with Howard Hughes. And so I'll tell you this story. It's fascinating. I actually bought a company in I'd quit or left music in 92. And 93 acquired a company called Summit Systems. And Howard Hughes named a lot of his companies after his mother's name. Summerlin, you know, like Summerlin here.
Yeah.
Summerlin, Summit. There's all these tied into a name that's
I didn't know
connected
that. So
to
that
his
was
mother.
his mom?
So yeah, and so when I left music, a mentor of mine was a gentleman by the name of Alan Paulson, And if you probably don't know his name, you know his airplanes. He owned and created Gulfstream jets, the private jets that everybody uses, and the United States and the Defense Department. And Alan was a multi-billionaire, and I was on the board of directors with him, and he was my mentor. And so I was fascinated by Alan because he ran away from home when he was in the 8th grade from Indiana, ended up in Bodega, California, working in a horse barn, or a horse, horses and stuff. And I'd constantly think, how did he get $3 billion, and he ran away from home with an 8th grade education and held 31 aeronautical patents and 34 world records at the time for speed around the world. And I'd spend so much time with him, and I would constantly be asking him,
how did you get from here to
what
here?
happened? Was it a lightning strike? Were you near near-death experience? Did you eat a leaf that's from the Amazon? What happened? Where did it come from?
It was the genie thing, right?
Yeah,
The genie?
something. I mean, absolutely something. So, anyway, years of torturing him, one day he said to me, what are you trying to find out? What do you want to know? I said, well, I'm just curious, just looking for an answer. So he didn't say anything. So now we're sitting along on this long car ride one time, and he's telling me, he goes, when I would go to Las Vegas, when I was in Las Vegas, Howard would call me, and he was staying kind of reclusive in this hotel.
The Desert Inn, probably.
Desert Inn.
Yeah.
And he would say, listen, pick me up at 1 o'clock or 1 a.m. in the morning. Now, nobody knew this because they thought he never left the hotel. And he said, we would get back before the sun would come up, and he goes, we would go flying. We would fly around, just fly. I said, let me get this straight. Are we talking about
The
Howard Hughes? You were, in your plane, in your early company, and you guys would fly around every night, or numerous, he said, multiple times we would fly together. And I said, okay, now we're getting somewhere. What did he tell you?
Right.
I said, surely this was the moment that some information was given to Alan, and he just laughed. He just said, but the curious story.
Maybe it was just osmosis. There's Cat likes to say that it's, if you hang around people that are inspired and are, intelligent or have
Right.
gifts, that it rubs off on you on some level. And so, a lot of times it isn't necessarily what's said. You can just hang around people and see how they act, see how they interact, see
Yes.
how they think, and react. So those lessons, maybe that's the only lesson.
And Alan's other friend, best friend, was Kurt Kerkorian. They were inseparable as friends. And they were both in the airplane and cargo business early on. And Kurt went on to do,
MGM.
Tresenda and then MGM. And Alan stayed with his airplanes.
Well, this brings us to the video. Sure. Okay, so we've discussed this. Well, no, we do have one other story to tell. I'll let you set it up. We can both tell the story. But when we were finally set up with the recording truck and we started working on the record, that we were using the house and the sound of the house. So we'd
Right.
set up drums and we might mic it from way down the hall. In fact, up in the Tiffany Dome. You remember I put a mic in the Tiffany Dome?
Right.
So we were going for the sound of the house with the other things. But at one particular point, Greg was working on some keyboard sounds, and he was in the truck with his keyboard, and he wanted to just work on those sounds. And he locked himself in, so I'll let you take it from there. What is there, a police or fire raid? Okay, so what happened?
Well, I really did. I needed some time alone and to do this part and to find the right sound. And I guess Eddie showed up early or whatever, or didn't
Yeah,
know.
I was outside when he arrived.
So I heard pounding on the door and let me in.
Buck!
And
Put the phone in the other room. Go ahead. Sorry.
and I said, well, I'm not opening the door. I just need to work on this. Eddie had one of his out-of-body experiences, I guess. And
Well, no,
I'll let you take
well,
over from the
I
outside.
only know, you had actually, so we all had decided, you know, and by the way, you could lock the truck from the inside and you
Right.
could not get in.
Right.
In fact, the way that the truck worked is it had this twist that would extend these poles up and like an old fort.
Yeah.
You know, so no way you're getting through that door.
Right.
And of course, you had a lot of money and equipment there, so you had to have it really secure. Anyway, he's banging on the door. Now, we're looking at him banging on the door, and we don't really understand the dynamics, you know. And in fact, the only time I really got involved is he yelled out to you he was going to, want to get an axe and cut the power cable to the truck. Remember him saying something like that?
So I guess he found a fire axe there at the castle somewhere,
Right.
And came walking out. And Todd sees him carrying an axe and went, no. It was.
Well, I mean, you can imagine the cable, you know, it's a huge power cable powering the truck.
Yeah.
And it's tied into the main power of the building. So, you know, he would have
Right.
blown himself up to some degree.
Right.
At that level, it would have vaporized the head
And
of the
he
axe.
really would have interrupted me.
That would
at
have done
that
it.
point.
But he could have done it irreparably. But I mean, the guy was like out of control, like, you know, like wanting to get
upset.
in.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't go in. Now he did eventually get in, but not. All of us were trying to talk him out of it. Like, no, do not cut the power. Give me the axe. No, I'm cutting the power. No, we're not cutting the power. Then he wanted to know how to turn off the power, and we
Right.
wouldn't tell him. You could actually do it, but
Yeah.
you had to get a key to do it. Anyway, long story short, that was Eddie
These
trying to do it.
stories in music, though, and I happen to be, and Todd and I were in LA in music in those 70s and 80s, but the 70s especially, with the record plant and the recording studio. And
In fact, you mixed this record at the record plant.
this mixed at the record plant. And for example, at the record plant, there would be the 4 rooms, and Rod Stewart would be next to you here, and you know.
Now, speaking of the record plant, Gary Keldron,
Yes.
who was the owner of the record plant, took over the castle.
Took over the
He
castle.
leased it when we moved out. He
and
moved
he
in,
actually
died there.
passed away there.
He drowned in the pool, right?
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, well, I guess I could tell the story. I went up into the bedroom. We were still moving the equipment out when he had moved in, and he was up in the master bedroom. And it was this really weird scene, like out of a movie.
I went up there.
Do
It
you
was
remember that? So he
crazy.
had a huge, 4-post bed, and they had white silk, you know, drapes everywhere, and all the windows had white
And
silk.
they had white, so if a window was open,
was blowing.
blew it, and
Like some
everything was
weird
moving.
scene in a movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And I walked in, and there were some girls in there with him, and everybody had white in, like
Yeah,
like Sikhs.
yeah.
And I walked in, I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and he was like, "Oh yeah, we need to talk," you know. And I was talking to him about the
Right.
truck, and then he fires up. I'd never seen crack cocaine before. He starts smoking.
Oh.
He starts smoking
Yeah.
crack, and he offers it to me, and I remember saying, "Yeah, no, I don't think that looks like something I'd be interested." You know, like because he was cooking it in the spoon
Yeah.
with ether. And I was like, "Yeah."
Was that while we were recording? He was
Right at the tail end of the album, he had moved in upstairs.
Oh,
We were either we were wrapping, like getting the equipment out, and we were still.
I thought it was before, but it could have been. Yeah.
No, he
I
wasn't
don't-
living there while you were
No,
working.
no, I know that because
But he had leased the place right after, so we had it for a month. That was a 30-day thing.
Yeah.
And maybe a little
I
extra.
remember I would go up there and take a nap or something if I was tired of, you know.
But it was like
whatever.
out of some weird scene in some weird ethereal movie.
But
with
the room was-
the drape, and then to find out the guy drowns in the pool was a really
Yeah.
weird thing. Buck,
Yeah.
are you paying attention? Thank you. We got. Well, no, he's not switching. Are you awake back there, Buck? We're good. Oh, he's awake now. Gary Keldron, the owner of the Record Plant Recording Studio, who had produced a lot of records, I think, in his own right.
Yes.
Keldron.
Yeah, Gary Keldron.
Keldron.
I mean, everybody connected with this thing from the day one with Neil Bogart and coming on with Casablanca. And Casablanca, if you don't know, was a record label.
Big record label.
Kiss was on it. Donna Summer, Village People, Angel. Even later on, Rodney Dangerfield.
Well, if you look up his name, you know, you'd see that Neil Bogart was a big record guy.
Yeah, and tied into here, and he's on the wall. Your friend Rupert Perry,
Richard Perry.
Richard Perry. The other guy's Richard Perry was president of Capitol, or head of Capitol Records at the time, before we chose to go with Neil Bogart. And we met with Capitol, and I was so excited. I said, oh, we're in the round building at Capitol Records.
Yeah, we're
the Beatles and
well, Sinatra, right?
yeah.
It's
I
his
mean,
house,
this is
Sinatra's
like the
house.
holy grail of the record companies. I'm sitting in the office, and I'm going, oh, we got to go with Capitol. This is what we're going to do. And then he started telling me, he goes, well, we're going to hook you up with some songwriters, and I'm going to produce it, or we're going to have the production. And here's where the thing, you're too young, too much, too soon, that you think you can do everything. That
Yeah.
was one of my, later in life, I look back on that. And that just said, oh, no. We're doing the songs that I write and the band writes, and we're going to do it this way. And
You
we're-
write the songs the whole world sings?
Yeah, we threw. I did not say anything at that point. I didn't do any kind of tantrum, but I just said no. And then Neil Bogart, we meet with him, and he's going, "Oh no, I love it the way it is. I love these
Okay, good.
songs." And I go, "We're going with you." So that's how we ended up going with.
So one of the other cool things that the truck, now the truck had an interesting history too before we upgraded it, but I actually bought the recording truck that you saw the pictures of a moment ago from a keyboard player / guitar player, Lee Michaels.
Lee Michaels, yeah.
And if you look some of these weird names up, they're kind of obscure, but Lee Michaels had a big career, and he had built this truck originally. And one of the things, but he was in financial trouble, and he was selling the truck. I found out about it, and we bought the truck. Now, we bought the truck not so much for the main equipment, because we ended up changing the console and a lot of
Right.
things. We bought it from the microphone collection, because he had a world-class microphone collection. And so this is an example of a tube microphone from the 60s and 50s, really even before. This is a U67. What's unique about this is you'll see here, there's a tube right here. You know, so these microphones are very rare, very valuable, but they have a certain, as Carrie would say, je ne sais quoi.
Yep.
You know, they have a sound to them, and they're really special. And so we actually used this microphone on the carry-on vocals. We actually
Yes.
used this mic.
Right.
Now, this mic actually has even a better history. Do you have the photo? Ah, the photo is ready to go. Playback. So there is the photo. There's the mic. When I originally got one of these mics, I actually got it, and my mom was singing for the record, which is how I met Richard Perry, who produced, you see how this world all ties together?
It's spooky, actually. I mean,
Everything connects together. So
Yep.
anyway, that she was singing in that microphone, and I said they had like 10 of them in the studio, and I said, oh, we would like to get one of those for the truck, and that's how I ended up getting one for the truck. But Lee Michaels did have quite a mic collection, but he actually did not have tube mics in there. They were all, like he had a U47, but it was not a tube mic and things
Right.
like that. So it required us going out and finding these other eccentric microphones along the way. Let's get into our little behind-the-scenes video. So one of the things that happened is when Greg and I started playing golf together, he was pretty much hadn't talked about music at all. But then at a certain point, I said, I'm thinking about building a little recording studio. You said I'm thinking about recording some songs. And so this is how we got together. And he recorded several songs in the studio during the pandemic. And then we decided to do a tribute song to Carrie. And
Right.
that was kind of born out of golf conversation, I think, originally, before it ever became...
Yeah, I remember, it's funny as you get older and you remember
Different things.
flashes and different things, but I remember even in '76, I remember talking about,
Oh,
we
yeah.
should write some stuff together, because you play guitar, you're a musician, you play piano, and I remember Carrie being up at the
She came to the
recording.
castle, yeah.
And so we never got around to it.
Well,
And
we had
so
talked about it, you're right. And
We did.
well, and so here we are all these years later where we actually decided to do a song. Last week we teased you with a little bit of the song. If we put together a behind the scenes thing, this is us
Right.
working on the record.
Well, let me talk about, can we say about who,
You should.
other,
Yeah, you should.
some other,
Well, what they're about to see. So yeah.
yeah.
Set it
So, I write the music, and I never sang lead as a lead singer in any of my groups, whether it was Angel, Jafria, my solo stuff, or House of Lords. Just didn't have a good enough voice compared to people that I met and knew, and that were just incredible singers. And so when it came back to do
That was always
these-
my excuse, by the way.
Yeah,
People would
well,
say, "How
mine
come you
was-
don't sing?" I say, "Because the world doesn't need another mediocre
mediocre
singer."
singer. I mean, I can squeak it by when I'm writing a song, but not what to the level that I want.
When you know
for
the
my
real
song.
guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
And girls.
And so that's true. Never had a female singer in the high school band that was opening for Jimi Hendrix, though. Maybe that's why we got the job.
Probably.
I'm not sure. But I was thinking about who could I get to sing this, and so I was a big fan. I loved Steve Perry and Journey, and that got to know those guys. We did some shows with them and stuff. And when Steve left, they got a drummer named Dean Castronovo, and he had played with some other famous bands, Bad English and the Babies. I think he was the drummer with the Babies also. And he was able, he can sing like Steve Perry. He does 4 songs a night right now. They're out on tour. I think they just played at the NFL draft just a few nights ago. He plays drums for Journey, and he can do the whole show if he has to. And
Well,
so
I
he's
think he
singing on
sounds
this.
more like Steve Perry than Steve Perry sometimes. You know, he's
Well, he can flip a switch, and really, if he's like if they're in front of 20,000 people and he's doing his songs, or if he needed to do another song, he can flip a switch and even sound more like Steve. But he's singing on this new record that I'm doing, and so is Tony Franklin, which is Jimmy Page, who was from Led Zeppelin, and Led Zeppelin was produced by Eddie Kramer. It starts to tangle like crazy on this thing. He's playing bass, and Alice Cooper's drummer, Ken Mary, is playing drums on it, and
Meatloaf.
Meatloaf's guitar player, Paul Crook, is the guitar player. So that's who's playing on this song.
But
on
it started.
Carry On.
It started with just your
Just-
keyboard
yeah.
and you and I talking about the song.
Yes.
And then I didn't have a plan at all. And Henry and I were talking, and Henry said, "You know, I was going through the archives, and I found all of these old lyrics that you and Carrie had written together."
Right.
For like You're You, which was like a little short film that we did back when we were teenagers.
Yeah, we would sit around here in the studio and got everything fired up. Have you showed on your show pictures of the studio and the inside and everything?
We haven't,
but anyway, it's a real.
You could
deal.
actually bring it up on that laptop. If you go under Las Vegas studio, you'll see some pictures of the recording studio. We could share it with them so they could see where we recorded it. Now actually, you know what though? Don't worry about it because it shows up in the video.
Yeah.
In fact, we could just talk over the video. Let's just run the video and we'll talk over that. To
And
some
I haven't
degree.
seen the video yet. So
No, I
I'm
know.
gonna
I
be-
purposely didn't run it for you because I really thought you'd enjoy seeing it. But the setup is important, which you just said. Now, you know, keeping in mind that the objective became like, how can I do, from my perspective, was like, how do I do a little tribute piece, you know, to Carrie? And then he had a couple of songs that didn't have lyrics. So we listened to a couple of songs, and, you know, it just so happens that this one really fit well with some of the lyrics that we had retrieved.
You and Henry identified that completely. My original working title for the song, because when I write a song, I will give it a single word or just a very simple name just to work on the music and to write it. And I was sitting there thinking about the music, and I said, gosh, I've got to write the perfect song. I got to have the perfect music. I got to do this. What's the most perfect? Oh, wait a minute. I just saw this movie Wonder Woman, and again, I said, oh my God, Gal Gadot. She's perfect. So let me name the song the working title.
The first time, yes.
And so that was just as a reference for me because I've got 200 songs published and keeping up with.
It gets confusing.
So I give them really unusual names. And then you listened to the music and said, this is what I want to work on.
Well, and we had some very specific things that we wanted to put into the song. So
Yes.
one, we wanted to have a verse about Carrie, then we wanted my mother first, a verse, and then
And
the
then
second
verse.
verse was going to be about Carrie.
Right.
And then we wanted to have a chorus that was sort of about both of them together.
Right.
So there's some very interesting things within the lyrics. But let's run the video on the playback side and take a look. This is all behind the scenes. I think you're going to enjoy this. You ready?
But I'm saying, I'm thinking down the road as this gets, the awareness factor becomes on this. And is the name, we'll just go through names. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's embedded in the...
Wait, the name could be embedded in there, or it's going to be an impact name that when somebody listens to it, it's discovered and with help too. Don't know.
Well,
It can be cryptic or...
well,
or
the greatest thing ever, of course, let me bring this up real quick here. Lunar pie. See, lunar pie was actually a type of acid.
Right,
So you're doing kind of like a Stones thing, when you're talking about Mother's Little Helper.
right. And I think,
Well,
I've
I'm just
been,
looking at the lyrics here.
as he sings it and as he does it, things are gonna appear to us.
I'm not worried about rushing into it at all.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even remember this.
I don't either. We talk to each other like we're brothers and known each other a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, we have.
Oh, that.
His lead line, this is the pattern, and I'm not hearing that yet, so.
That's me squeaking through.
No, but it's nice though that you're seeing the moment that something was created.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that.
Yeah. So we're floating. So the chord right now, we're making a chord. We're using. We got the chord. It's separate. So
We only have 3 parts in it.
yeah.
Those lyrics written by you on
Now
that,
his lead
and it
line,
fits
I don't
in
know if it's
perfect
up on
with
that for the
this.
lead line. So it would be said.
Right, so in this case, the music was written to go with the words. In
Yeah.
reverse.
Yeah, it's reversed.
That's
Yeah,
how
so
the Bernie
I
Taupin
think-
Elton John thing works. There you go.
That-
See, that's when
that
you got.
line-
See, at first you were going up, and
Really
then
going
you
south.
no, that's better that it comes down.
If it fits in,
No, but that's what
the
we were
chord.
singing in the early. So
Yeah.
you're kind of seeing the way
Yeah,
this
so
was
as long as
created.
Yeah.
Now there's Dean.
Awesome, bro. All right, I'm ready when you are. Okay.
Now this is more the rehearsal phase. You know, we're not actually
Well,
tracking.
yeah,
it.
we're actually.
Absolutely.
And then go the main bridge, and we're gonna try.
See, that's cool. Remember, I had
All
a
these guys scatting.
like on this is the surveillance camera.
Oh, yeah.
So we're cutting to like live cameras.
Interesting. I haven't seen.
We're gonna go to the main musical bridge.
That's
and
Rob, our
that's where
engineer.
that one
Yeah.
turnaround goes around. Remember what we talked about? The big bridge or no? Okay. Well, I'll play it. Can you see me in here with my hand?
Not with my glasses, dude. You're
Okay.
just a blur.
Thanks.
He can hear you while it's playing though.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can talk him through it.
Okay. Go ahead, and I'll play the
I'm gonna
part.
play it at the build.
Wow, this is the.
Well, but we originally he was going to sing in the bridge,
Yeah.
and then we decided not to.
This center section, I do orchestral composition also for the orchestras. And this section was written more with the orchestra.
Yeah, that. And then you go up high, do a parry-ish thing just to carry it into that. Except, yeah, like that would be right before that crescendo starts.
So just
right
for
where
the
it came in.
viewers
So
and listening,
it's one
we
whole-
experiment
it's
with a
one
lot of
turnaround,
things
then
in the
there's a little
studio,
pause,
and
there's a
especially in a
pocket to
formative.
kinda-
But this thing had a mind of its own. It was going to end up the way it is.
Well, you're gonna. What's funny about this is
Well, no, whatever.
You're gonna see
We're gonna try
some of
that.
that happening.
It's
like
Right.
changes or
getting
I
very
don't
made 'em-
remember
there.
this.
It's
No,
more of a
because
really
because we've spent so much time with the finished product.
Right.
And,
There were a lot
yeah, I'll
of
show you where. You can try some
available
different
takes because he's so talented. There's a really funny sequence where I actually tell him that you got to hold back because you make this sound so easy.
That's the early.
things. Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
That's a good example when you were like saying, "Oh man, you're singing over the top of everything.
Right.
Too much."
5-year-old grandson. This was his joke. How much does it cost for a pirate to get his ears pierced? $1 an ear. Come on.
See, that was the bridge before we changed it.
Yeah,
We keep hearing
that's
that melody on that.
We ended
We're
up
gonna-
changing that bridge.
We can play that. We're not gonna. yeah,
I'm very
we'll go back.
excited about everyone hearing the whole song.
Yesterday.
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah,
we'll
we'll
play
pull
when
all
this
that
is
out,
done.
and
We'll
then
play
I
up
need
to a
the
certain
lyric
point
sheet.
Right.
where you can hear the
Did
finished.
you bring Did you bring
No, you wrote them. You gave them to me on text.
You can see there the Pro Tools
I can go-
system.
Not notes. Not actual
After I
chords.
say
No
4,
chords
Hey,
for
Mark
drummers.
Pace.
How did Mark Pace
when I count
squeeze
to
one
3.
Yes,
No,
now you-
Let me go. Do we
Just
got the
sing it
first
if
two
you-
lines? Do we, this way. We got the first 2 lines. Yes, that feels good, to you guys.
See,
Let me
everyone, this
try
is
it.
what
She
it's
sparkles
really
in the
like
spotlight.
when
She
you're
did.
working
She
and
said
stuff
she
in
did.
the
try some
studio.
different things. Just have some fun.
Okay, we
Right,
got
you
those
think
two,
it
so
just
let's do this.
instantly
She
happens, but there's a lot of collaboration.
And there's a lot of magic that comes from this.
Yeah, but the high one is. the
Doesn't look
last
like it
one.
right
No,
now,
I
but it
think
does get
Sparkles-
Well,
magical.
that's why I left it like this. I kind of wanted them to see
Yeah.
a real
And
behind
the
the
last-
Save it
What's
to the
this?
last line.
The last line takes it up. She sparkles and spotlight sounded cool the way you were
Well,
doing
then
it.
let me just do. She sings, she dances. Let's do some high.
The problem with you is it's all so easy for you. We want to hold it back.
He's young. and then I woke
Look,
up
there's
one
John
day and
Haas
he was crying.
Yeah.
and Henry.
He started
Henry.
saying things to me that nobody
Right.
even knows.
Well, that's because it's.
And it was him.
You
And I was
have
like,
info.
fuck, I
And
just
there's
called
Kat.
him Dad.
We finally got Kat back on the show. Now watch Kat's reaction very carefully here when she's never heard him sing before. It's
Right.
the first time she's heard him sing.
I know where you're coming from. I felt that.
So he's about to sing a lyric and she looks over at me like, whoa.
Yeah.
So keep your eye on Kat.
Rider.
Let's
Chocolate.
Ryder.
You see the way she looked at me? That she looked at Henry like, holy, wow.
Yeah. I agree.
Now see, there's the first time he actually got that right.
Right.
That was it. So there was a, now what we'll do is we'll cue up the song. Now we're not going to play it too far in, but I'll take it to, did I say I was going to play both verses or are we going to cut it? Okay. All right, well, I'll give you a cue.
Or you're not playing the middle section.
No,
right now,
because
no.
we
Well,
like it's so one of the most special things about the song from a
Have you
fan.
Have you talked about that? With
yeah.
everybody?
So
I
last
mean,
week we did, but we have to because you don't always have the same viewers. But basically, I'll just go over the structure of the song. So the first verse is which I'll let you hear, and that is about Debbie.
Right.
She sparkles in the spotlight. She sings. She dances into the night. That's a cute little representation. And those words actually came from Carrie and I when we were
Right.
teenagers. Then we go into the verse, which is dreaming, dreaming of you, which you
Right.
just heard there.
Right.
That's actually the verse. And that came from the Yahoo interview that I did where I was saying that Carrie and my mother visit me in my dreams.
Sure.
And I wasn't trying to be spacey or saying anything outrageous, but that
Right.
did generate a lot of interest. So that is how we came up with the verse, dreaming, dreaming of you.
Now, let me set up the bridge.
Well, I haven't got there yet, so
Okay.
so you will take the bridge. So the second verse is about Carrie, and you heard me earlier in that video talking about swallowing a lunar pie, which
Right.
which was code for dropping acid.
Right.
So in this case, her verse says she wrote into the night,
Right.
which I mean, there's some very clever little
Right.
little specific storytelling things in here. Now, once we get through the next chorus, then we go into the bridge. And so
Right.
this is where you have your orchestral break, which you heard some of,
Right.
but that took its
So-
shape.
So that was being treated, the bridge, when you hear that song, and everyone's heard the THX sound in a movie theater before, where the two opposing sounds come together
Swirl.
and form a chord. And one of my big synthesizers was used by the guys that did that sound, which was odd. And so here we're having a song about two icons in the motion picture business. How better to bring the bridge in by, wait, am I at the movies or what on this particular sound? The bridge was written as a standalone, originally orchestral part with the orchestra coming in, and you'll hear it on May the 4th.
May the 4th.
And then something extraordinary happened. And Todd said to me, this is my memory of it.
Okay.
I have my phone messages from my mom and my
The
sister.
final ones. The
last
ones.
messages ever. Gosh, my hair on my arm stands up every time I think about this whole thing, from Carrie and my mom. And I said, oh my gosh. And then I don't know whether you said maybe.
How do we
maybe
weave it in?
How could we incorporate it?
But no one has ever done this before. In fact,
Right.
it's
It took
still
us-
an eccentric thing to do. But it became so like, oh, we got to try it, and
Well, that's where the quest started. Now, we have some of the most sophisticated equipment that you can get in the studio. We have an extraordinary engineer, Rob Katz. Todd and I both have been in the studio. I've produced our records. But to get these phone recordings on different machines and pull them from this was an extraordinary task to get it to where it would sound, where you could hear it, and where you could hear everything that they said, hear what Carrie said, hear what Debbie said, and then have it be pleasing to the audience sound-wise.
Right.
It was took us 3 months to
well,
solve this issue.
we put it in there, and we kept saying,
We can't hear
you
it.
got to turn it up, but we couldn't turn it up. It was already like way up, and we're like, no, we got to figure out how to make it come out in front of the music. So, because the way that sound works is if you have a lot of the same sounds that are in the same frequency range, they start to compete with each other. So like in an orchestra, the best arrangements are, where everything is very tastefully placed.
Sure.
And the sounds are tastefully placed. But here was a voice that was just all over the music, and it just didn't work. So, it took months to figure out how to even hear it properly.
Well, it's an easy way to say it. Everyone's heard a song before that has a telephone kind of sound in it.
Yeah, and we didn't want
It's a
that,
very
obviously.
narrow, thin sound. So instead of trying to figure out how to take stuff out of just a real open part anyway, I know we're getting a little technical for the viewers, but we had to add frequencies through some real sophisticated stuff. Now, 2 years ago, I guess now, everyone's probably familiar with the Beatles coming back with the song, was it I Miss You? Or when they extrapolated John Lennon's vocals out and did reverse technology on enhancing the voice, then getting the mix and music from tapes and stuff and combining it. It's still a performance.
But it's
on
like
this
it-
thing was just,
yeah.
and that was difficult. But we used a similar process to get this to sound sound
to
right.
fit
So I'm
in there.
excited for people to hear it.
Well, go ahead and play the. So we have visuals to the song too, so we can talk over some of it in the beginning. Go ahead and start it because it starts with the colors. But we put some visuals to it. I don't know that you've seen this
I haven't.
slideshow.
And Todd and I, Todd and I are known for really not talking very much.
Yeah, there's nothing to say in this crew.
Yeah, there's nothing to say.
Okay, go ahead and start the song. So we're going to just talk about it as it goes. So there it is coming in. It starts with just this, I guess you'd call it interlude.
Yeah.
And it's an intro, really.
Intro.
This is what Greg is great at, by the way. Some of these beautiful synthesizer effects. We're going to be working more on the visuals today with this. It starts though with the first verse.
My girl in many colors, from emerald green to pink. She sparkles in the spotlight. She sings, she dances into the
Okay, so I don't want to give too much away because I want there to be a night, but you heard the line there. What's cool about what you just saw and then heard earlier is you saw the creation of all that. In the one video where we started, you and I are saying, I'm on my phone looking up Lunar Pie because I wanted to use that lyric that Carrie had written with me 50 years ago,
Right.
and I was trying to figure. I had no idea how it was going to fit in. But so you get to see how a lot of this went on, and then in the chorus there, you heard the dreaming of you.
Right.
You saw how that was born.
Sure.
You and I were standing there, and in fact, the first time you played it, you went up instead of down. In the end, we went down,
Right,
dreaming of
right.
you going down. Now that, by the way, those voices, this is weird because Henry and I sang literally just into a mic like you're holding right now, a scratch track for those voices.
Yeah, I think it was sitting on the producer's desk.
We were.
And you guys were sitting on the couch, and you did that. And I'm thinking ahead because I've got to get Dean's voice in to answer. So the going down and let him go up was the way.
Part of that creation.
Uh-huh,
But
yeah.
but the dreaming
Yep.
you is actually Henry and I, and we never re-recorded it. We
No.
we literally Henry and I sang that after it had been created on the stage, which you saw, and then we ended up keeping that track and just equalizing it. So that's Henry and I doing the chorus, the dreaming of you.
I think I turned around and to you and Henry and said, "Hey kids, I think you can go somewhere."
you might
got a shot.
might make it. So the later in the bridge, obviously we have another spot where we have sort of a Sergeant Pepper's sounding little thing.
Yeah.
She is the light of her mother's eye, weighed only down by her clothes, worships the ground they talk on.
Right.
So those are, now, you guys probably recognize that as very much Carrie jargon.
Yes.
Those are all sort of, I remember when we wrote that stuff, why we were working on it. It was for a whole nother project. So to stumble upon these notes,
Right.
and then if it wasn't,
Well, that part was written to be kind of dramatic, and most songs don't have two bridges or two breakdowns.
Right.
And that part did.
now how did that work? That just worked coincidentally?
No, coming at the end of the guitar solo, which
No one's heard yet.
Which what's his name I'm playing. Backstreet Boys were over here
Oh,
at the
yeah,
studio.
Nick Carter.
Nick Carter is a friend of mine and Todd's, and so
He was actually over here recording.
yeah, and so I invited him over one day to come over and take a listen. Inviting Nick somewhere, it reminded me of myself sometimes, changing plans all the time and this and that. So anyway, he finally got over and he liked it, so it was fun.
Well, it's an unusual little song. So what we're going to do is this is going to be on the Patreon site. Oh, and speaking of Patreon, so more stuff is going to be put up on Patreon. For those of you, we had quite a few people already join the Patreon site, but this is going to be the only way you're going to get to be able to have the song, because it's the best way for us to control the licensing of the song. So the only way you can download the song is through the Patreon. Through Patreon. We'll see how that goes. Maybe we'll broaden it out later, but right now we got to keep control of this because it's such a unique piece. And I think launching it on May the 4th is kind of cool.
Oh yeah,
You know.
it all magically everything ties in.
So, on the we have in regards to the what we're launching on Patreon, we're going to be adding on May the 4th. We're going to add some footage that we shot on the cruise ship. We never showed any of that, did we?
No, we're not showing that until May the 4th.
Right. On May the 4th, we're going to launch some behind-the-scenes video of Carrie with Lucas and with Francis Ford Coppola and just Robin Williams and Candice Bergen, and very unusual behind-the-scene footage. That's going to launch on the Patreon site on May the 4th, and also another drop of the Monday at the Movies from the hotel. And who knows what else we'll find to drop. But that was the whole point of the Patreon thing, is we're going to release we'll just say every month, several new things so people can get.
And I have a comment for you. Someone who purchased your mom and Donald O'Connor's concert, they said it was a dream to watch them together, and the audio was...
Okay, so
Wow.
what he just said, because we stole his microphone, is that there was that's unusual. He says he's silenced, and I'm like, that's first time for that. So the Donald and Debbie in Reno show is on the Patreon site now in its entirety. So you can
Wow.
buy the show and watch the whole show. Now, people that have seen pieces of this that will run on this show live, and also on some of the lesser things, we'll run a segment of her dancing and stuff. But this was recorded with the recording truck.
Right.
So you have 24-track, high-level audio, 25-piece orchestra, Donald and Debbie doing their own choreography, recreating stuff from Singing the Rain. It's an amazing thing. And they're so cute together, and they're such good friends. It's such a magical show. And they both have their own little segments as well. So it's not always just the two of them. It's them both doing their own little thing at times. They tell their stories, and it's a great thing. So the Patreon site is going to have a lot of stuff. And if this goes well on the music, we could release some of your other stuff. Greg wrote several other songs at the same time this was done.
Yeah.
So we have some unreleased Greg stuff, so there might be fans that want that.
Do we have that footage of your mom and Donald to tease like a minute?
Okay, let's tease it. So I just told you the story of Donald and Debbie in Reno, so we're going to show some of that. It's really fun stuff. Is this what we ran last week, or a new clip? New clip. Seth would not make us watch the same clip more than one time. So you're going to see a new little clip from that show. I encourage you guys, though, if you really want, because you can't go see Debbie anymore. Well, you can, but you'd have to kill yourself. So I don't recommend that. I would just suggest you download the show. It's way easier and not
Yeah.
against the law. Well, Seth is struggling.
Speaking of, it got pulled out of here somehow.
Well, it's probably on your little flash drive. I can go back to your flash drive and just pull it back in. Anyway, what he's going to play for you is he found obviously another little piece of that to tease it. But it's not just teasing; it's really entertainment too. It does qualify.
Sure. Are
You know.
you kidding? I enjoy all of this.
We'll let
stuff
you
with
watch the whole
Debbie.
show for nothing,
Okay.
just
I will.
because Debbie loved you.
She was just absolutely incredible.
Well, my mother's ability, to charm people was pretty amazing. That's when she would go in the audience, which is part of this show. She would climb around the audience and play with guys' hair, and the wives didn't mind. And it was like it was magical what she could do.
Yeah.
The connection she had with her fans. I don't know any other stars that could go into the audience and spend 20 minutes, even singing in there. while literally walking the floor of a theater or show.
I remember.
You find it?
I did, it's loading into
Your mom, the first time she saw me, because I had long hair. I had a big
Oh.
pile of hair, and it was a funny stuff.
Well, we're, what do you think there, Seth?
Well, for some reason I have to load it from here to here. It was on there, but I don't know what happened.
But wasn't it on the little flash drive?
I thought so, but I guess when we had to redo some,
That may take a while to copy over.
no, it's
2 seconds. All right, well, would you like me to talk about something else?
for Greg, actually.
Okay, question for Greg.
Somebody was asking, well, two questions. What was one of your favorite memories recording with Angel? And do you still keep in touch with any of the folks?
Repeat the question because they don't hear it.
The question was, what was one of my fondest memories with Angel, and do I keep in touch with the guys? Fondest memories?
None. No, I'm
No,
kidding.
I think the very getting signed and coming from
That
the band
Capitol
was put
Records
together.
story.
Yeah, the Capitol Records was the wow. But there's moments that growing up in Mississippi, and I wanted to just get to California. I wanted to go west, as they say, go west, young man.
Yes.
And then I put Angel together actually in Washington, D.C., off of M Street. So you go out and you could see the Capitol, and there was a nightclub that we rehearsed in. And we told the guy, listen, let us rehearse here, and we will play in front of an audience in your club Friday and Saturday nights. So we were very finely tuned. And then when I had run into David Bowie I was playing somewhere in a different band, and basically he said, God, you're incredible, but, you know, the band is dreadful. Not Angel, but this other band I was in. And he said, when you put something together, call this number in London to my management. I went, okay, great. I saved the number. And then so we're playing there in D.C., and Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley from KISS came to the show and just went crazy. Said they loved us. They called Neil Bogart in the middle of the night. So in California time, it was just late at night. He woke up and said, what's going on? And that was all just magical. So I would say the fondest memories are those forming and then actually getting
Being
to
discovered
California,
and how
getting
you're
out
discovered.
at LAX, and how that was
Now,
fun.
the other question was, do you stay in touch with any of the guys?
Yeah, I'll talk to Punky occasionally, and Frank lives in Las Vegas, so I see him. I just signed, 300 special. It's the 50th anniversary of the first Angel album this year. And so there's a vinyl out about the 50th anniversary, a bundle, and it's signed by the surviving members.
Oh, that's
there's
cool.
4 of us. And the original bass player had passed away, but Mickey Jones. But
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, and the band is out touring and playing and with some different members, which was fine with me. I encouraged it.
Well, touring is also a bitch.
Yeah.
It's once you've done it, it's kind of like, right, I've done that. Now what?
Yeah,
Okay, he's got the clip. So we're going back quickly to Donald and Debbie, a little play so you can see what's on Patreon. So go ahead.
Dancing, dancing, all together. Dancing.
And they did all this choreography themselves, by the way.
Wow, what great footage.
actually, whatever you want. What do you call this? Well, marionette. What do you call that? Band. Watch her. She gets it behind her back there. Baton twirl. Anyway, they're so cute together, right?
Yeah.
So there
Wow.
you have it. Yeah, that's cool. And by the way, looking over here at let's go to the wide shot. Well, let's go to that medium shot. Or why don't you grab this close-up camera? We do have if you look at the screen there next to Greg, you see the blue costume down front. And we'll go to the close-up camera. So this is the costume you just saw her wearing. It's not lit real well, but there it is sitting there. So that's kind of fun to, and you can see why I would keep that costume.
Oh,
It's,
sure.
I don't try to keep every single costume. Focus up a little bit. Roll your focus. There you go. Anyway, I call it the cloud costume. This is another Bob Mackie. It's really an impressive costume. So there she is wearing that in there. All right, I think we've done it, and we covered all subjects. So we have now what we're not doing the regular giveaways because we don't have Ryan or Seth, but we do have the Super Wheel from last week. So those of you that donated, that'll all still be in place. The Super Wheel is still in place for next week, and we have a Super Wheel from last week, so we're going to spin that, are we not?
We are.
All right, so I'm going to throw that up real quick. So this is just for the Super Wheel we're going to do. There she is. So we're going to have a Super Wheel winner for tonight. These are people that have donated money to the show, and they get their name up there up to two times. There you go. Kathy Hobbs. Now, does Kathy have this? You would know.
Well, I don't actually. I don't think she does.
Okay, so I have in my hands the second generation Debbie Reynolds Dance Studio floor. This is laser etched, and these are numbered. Unlike the first bunch that we did, they had like a plaque on there, but these are, you can feel that it's cut into the wood with a CNC.
Right.
And then it's numbered. This is number 83. So you are, what is Kathy? Kathy Hobbs, you are the winner of the dance floor. Now, if you already have the dance floor, please tell us and we'll find something else equally cool. Although this is really, I think, a really special thing because it can sit on a shelf, and it's a nice piece to have a piece of history. For those of you who don't know what the heck this is a piece of floor from Debbie Reynolds Dance Studio for a 50-year period of time. Before that, it spent probably another 50 years at MGM Studios. So this was where Eleanor Powell and Fred Astaire rehearsed on this dance floor. The floor was taken out by my mother, installed at Debbie Reynolds Dance Studio, where Michael Jackson and Ann Margaret and Shirley MacLaine and my mother and others worked on it for another 50 years. So what an amazing piece of history. And we did not fix it. If you look at it, it's all beat up from all the dance heels and kicks and this and that. So it's a great piece. We do sell this on the Debbie Reynolds Studio Store site. Those of you that have never won one, but so you can buy that as well. Have I covered
And
everything?
I got one of these. I have one of these, and I still can't dance.
Yeah,
So
well, it
I
actually
thought
doesn't
it
help
would-
you. I can't dance or won't dance. Don't ask me. I won't dance. Don't ask me.
I
Even if
just-
with a piece of floor, it ain't going to help you.
It's not going to help.
Well,
Yeah.
as my mother found out and was told by Fred Astaire, you got to do the work.
Yeah.
That's the thing about dancing. There's no easy way to be a great dancer. And we've had some controversial stuff on the show over the last couple of months because Gene Kelly's widow came out and tried to debunk this story about how my mother's feet were bleeding. And of course, I didn't, that isn't the point of the story. They were bleeding. I wasn't blaming Gene Kelly for making her feet bleed. It was hard work. And she didn't think she could do it. And that's when Fred Astaire took her to the dance studio and showed how tough it was even for him and said, it's all about the work. Now, if you're not willing to do the work and you're not up to the hard work, then this is not for you. Keep the day job.
Exactly.
Because this dancing is hard work. I mean, at that level. And when you watch Fred Astaire or even the Singing in the Rain moments with Gene and Donald when they're in the Good Morning number, I mean, it's mind-blowing. That they're dancing and coming down the stairs without looking. And I mean, it really requires an extraordinary commitment and amount of work. So anyway, great thing to have a little piece of the floor. Okay, so having said that, stay with us until next week, because next week Kat will be back. May the 4th. I'll have Greg back too, because we're going to premiere the song. Are you available next week? I'm
yeah,
informing
I'm
him
gonna,
that he's.
he's hoping I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
But
No, I want you back. No,
No, I would-
because we're going to play the song. We should talk about
Sure.
it. At that point, we can, redo that. And you guys let us know your thoughts about the song and how, are you excited to see it, et cetera, et cetera. We'd like to hear from you on this. In the meantime, I think we are we at the end of our long and winding
Oh,
road?
well, I want to thank.
that leads.
I want to say just thank you, Todd, for inviting me and doing this, and Seth, thank you, and that was great.
Well, we love
Thank you.
having you because you're part of the family, and what really connects all this stuff together too is it doesn't seem like a big deal, but I think the song in the end will be a really important thing.
Yeah.
I really do. I think you guys are going to feel, really. Most people that hear the song, especially fans, but even the ones that aren't necessarily huge fans, they really feel, the presence of Debbie and Carrie when this is done. So it's very powerful.
I can say that when the middle bridge comes on, and no matter how many times I've heard it, worked on it, wrote the music part to it, and then hearing that middle part, it has a effect on me every time I hear it.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm speechless about it.
Well, we're hoping
Haunting.
people will feel great about it and want to listen to it.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it, and we did keep the show under 2 hours. With the cat's not here, it's under 2 hours. I said I didn't want it to even go 90 minutes, but we kept it slightly under, right?
Casino time, hour and 20.
I'm not going to be in trouble with the casino management. We finished the show in 90 minutes or less. Go back to your slot machines or your crap tables and have fun for the evening. Thanks for joining us. We will see you next week. Don't forget about the Patreon site. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to stay tuned for our next show because that's going to be a big one. Don't forget that it's on Sunday instead of Saturday. That's a lot to remember, but we'll remind you along the way. Good night, everybody. Hit it.
Hey, I'm Katherine Hicklin. Some of you may know me best from One Life to Live, but I also own catcosmetics.com. Only the best cosmetics in the world. I use the Miracle Working Kit on a mother and daughter. It's easy to use, works for all skin types, and comes with a how-to DVD. So if you want to look 10 years younger in less than 5 minutes, or you just want to look more beautiful than you've ever been in your life, come on over to catcosmetics.com and make sure you sign up for special discounts, new products, and inspirations.